I quietly think about Gen Z living alongside us today. Born into the most prosperous era in human history, yet paradoxically, they are the most powerless. Constantly tired, their motivation evaporated, suffering from a hunger that never seems to be satisfied, even after eating and eating. Is it simply because their will is weak? No, your cells are sending out a desperate signal right now. Did you eat enough today? No, you are experiencing starvation in the midst of plenty right now. To obtain the nutrients found in a single apple your grandfather ate 100 years ago, you must eat 13 apples today. A bizarre age where bellies are full, but bodies are starving. This is because the ground we stand upon is losing its vitality and turning into crumbling brown powder. We think of soil as just dust or dead land, but in reality, underground wizards who have fed humanity for thousands of years live within it. They are soil microbes. These are not mere living organisms. They are highly advanced alchemists who extract minerals sleeping inside giant rocks and stones, refining them into a form that plants can absorb. When these alchemists work actively, the taste of the crops we eat becomes dense. That tingling acidity at the tip of the tongue, the deep sweetness that follows, and the heavy mineral umami that coats the entire mouth, that is the signal of true nutrition that our brains perceive as sufficient. However now, these great alchemists are disappearing through mass deaths. As the earth heats up due to climate change, the embrace of the land has passed the limit of survival that these wizards can endure. Beneath the scorched surface, the wizards are disappearing one by one, and the alchemy of the earth is stopping. The soil left in their wake can no longer fully embrace life and scatters weakly. Even if the farmer's sincerity wants to reach the very end of the fruit, those who deliver the nutrition have vanished. What remains in their place is only dead dust, brown powder that has completely lost its ability to deliver nutrients. Now, the crops are starving. In the soil where the postmen have disappeared, crops grow in size using only water and carbohydrates instead of minerals. The reason the fruits we eat have turned into a bland, watery taste is that the soil is becoming crumbling brown powder instead of a cradle for life. This is not just a feeling. It is a crisis of humanity proven by cold figures. Compared to the early 1900s, the soil organic matter content of farmlands worldwide has plummeted by as little as 50% and as much as over 70%. Although the fruits we face contain the utmost sincerity and sweat of farmers, over the past 100 years, the global soil organic matter content has plummeted by nearly 70%. As the alchemists in the soil disappear, the power of the land weakens, so the density of nutrition remains with us without being filled as densely as before. It is a heartbreaking record of how the heat of the climate and the power of land that has lost its vitality are not fully delivered to the end of the fruit. Look at the vast earth that supports all our lives. The land that once surged with the golden light of life is now slowly being stained with a pathetic red light, signifying mineral depletion. The most shocking fact is the decline in the quality of the food we eat. To get the vitamin A that a single apple had in the 1950s, we now have to eat as many as 13 apples. What about iron? The nutrition that was sufficient with one bunch of spinach now requires eating 10 bunches to replenish. The term starvation in the midst of plenty is by no means anyone's fault. It is simply the most unfortunate record our dining tables face in an era where the link between earth and sky has weakened. Not all crops collapse in the same way. It begins with the most sensitive crops that are most dependent on the microbial alchemists in the soil. The first victims are our beloved cacao and coffee. These do not grow simply with water and sunlight. Their complex flavors and components can only manifest when unique mineral components, created by microbes dissolving rocks, are combined. However, in a land where the texture of nutrition has thinned, they lose their identity. This is where the warning comes from. The coffee we drink in the future might become just bitter-tasting black water. Next are fruits. Modern fruits are much larger and sweeter than in the past. However, that is closer to a deformity than evolution. Phytochemicals, the antioxidants, and minerals have been cut in half, and only the sugar content that easily tempts the human tongue has become unnaturally high. The last bastion, grains, look the strongest but are empty inside. Minerals have vanished, and they are transforming into giant lumps of starch. The pyramid of nutrition is collapsing from its very bottom. Why do we keep wanting to eat something even though we are full? The culprit lies in the starch trap of grains. Starch is pure energy. When you eat flour-based food, the brain is initially happy that an enormous amount of calories has entered and sends a reward signal. But that joy is momentary. This is because micronutrients and minerals, the core parts that run our body's cells, did not enter. The cells feel thirsty. They send a powerful signal back to the brain. Hey, there's plenty of energy, but no vitamins or minerals to actually repair the body. Supply more nutrients. The brain fails to interpret this signal and stimulates the appetite again. This is exactly what fake hunger is. Even if you consume enough, the cells are in a state of malnutrition, so the body keeps craving food, and in the end, all that remains is fat and chronic fatigue. We are slowly starving in a state of fullness. Do you remember the taste of apples from the past? No, look at the records. Fruits of the past were an art of complex tastes: sour, sweet, bitter, and even astringent. But now, due to mineral deficiency, the layers of taste have thinned. The loss of nutrition has manifested as the simplification of taste. What we have lost is not just simple taste, but a map of vitality to support the body. We call this a change in preference, but in fact, it is a loss of nutrition. The brain no longer receives sufficient reward from a single fruit. The dense memories of taste have disappeared, and only provocative sugar has occupied the dining table. The fact that taste has simplified is a dangerous signal that the survival energy our bodies must accept has become simplified. When looking at the younger generation these days, people often say they lack persistence or will. But I see it differently. The lethargy of Gen Z is not a problem of the spirit, but a problem of the cells. A generation that has come to face the empty space of nutrition while eating food whose density of nutrition is not filled, on soil that is losing its strength and scattering. The batteries inside their bodies were never fully charged to begin with. Eating food grown on a land that has lost its vitality, their cells are always in power-saving mode. In this collapse of the food chain, where soil malnutrition leads to human malnutrition, the younger generation is enduring not weakness, but the scream of hungry cells with their entire bodies. Minerals are catalysts that help all chemical reactions in our bodies. If these are lacking, the brain becomes foggy, and the body falls into chronic fatigue, always in power-saving mode. The explosive increase in inflammatory diseases and depression is also linked to this nutritional void. Soil becomes malnourished, so crops become malnourished, and eventually humans who eat them become malnourished. A massive collapse of the food chain. Gen Z is the victim at the very front line of that collapse. Their lethargy is not weakness, but a quiet scream sent by hungry cells. Where does hope lie? it is not in grandiose technology. It is about waking up the underground wizards beneath our feet again. It is the task of opening the embrace of the earth wider. It is about planting various plants together to create a rich forest in the soil where the underground wizards can play to their heart's content. When microbes return, the soil will again hold carbon, cool down the heated land, and begin delivering minerals to the crops. Now, instead of being deluded by perfect shapes, we must willingly reach out to the rugged fruits created by nature that fully contain the energy of the soil. That is the warmest beginning to save the land and save us. We must recognize the value of dense taste rather than shape. When the soil becomes healthy, apples will regain their dense taste, and our dining tables will again be filled with true abundance. Only when the soil lives can plants live, and only when plants live can vitality return to human eyes. We stand at a crossroads of choice. Will we continue to live without knowing that our insides are becoming empty, having become accustomed to things that are smooth and good-looking? Or will we listen to the voice of the soil? Is the single apple you mindlessly pick today a product of a land where the texture of nutrition has thinned? Or is it a work of an alchemist? The way to escape from the hunger called abundance might be simpler than we think. It starts with willingly accepting the rugged truth created by nature instead of perfect shapes. Because what we eat is not just food, but the time and vitality of the soil that grew that food. What kind of light is dwelling on your dining table today? Lastly, I want to ask you, when was the last time you touched the soil? We often forget, but the beginning of humanity was, after all, the soil. Every single bit of calcium, iron, and mineral that composes our bodies is actually a piece of alchemy created by underground wizards over tens of thousands of years, dissolving rocks and breathing life into them. Our bones and blood are crystals of the soil they crafted, and we are, in effect, a community of destiny that cannot exist for even a single moment without them. Now we must give our attention back to the wizards struggling lonely in the soil that is losing its vitality. Perhaps as we moved further away from them, on the too smooth and clean cement of the city, our bodies and souls were drying up together. It doesn't have to be a grand movement. Quietly look into the soil beneath a small wildflower blooming on the roadside. Feel their breath by pressing the soil in a flower pot with your bare hands. Sensing the warm and rugged texture of the soil again instead of a cold smartphone screen. That small interest becomes the first step toward turning the dying soil back into a cradle of life. We are travelers who were born from the soil and will eventually return to it. I hope that journey is not a bland deficiency like watery taste, but full of dense abundance prepared by the underground wizards. The handful of soil you touch today will refill your tomorrow,